All right. Good to go. All right, we're gonna go ahead and call this meeting to order at 6:40 PM. Thanks for bearing with us with our technical difficulties. First thing on the agenda is meeting minutes for May 14th, 2025. Do you guys have any corrections, comments?
No, they're lengthy.
Yes.
Especially with this
Yeah.
project.
I don't have any. All right. Entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes for May 14th, 2025.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, first one we have is with Rusty Belcher. Rusty, come on up and share what you've been up to in the county. All right.
Got any questions about the April road report?
I have a question, on the Cunningham Bolt stuff. Are you also bringing, did you bring dirt up quite a ways that way too? Looked like it when I was on it last night.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we lifted the whole. I don't know what happened, but when that road melted out, the water just finally won and the whole road just sunk like 6 feet on the beaver side. So we put about 5 feet of slide rock in there and then we put about a foot of dirt. And then we hauled, I think we hauled about 20 truckloads of decent gravel in there to do the top, but
Stuff from up here or just regular gravel?
we mixed it with the stuff from up there, which has had really good bonding, so.
Cause that has clay in it, right? But
Yeah.
you're mixing gravel with it, that's a good idea.
Yeah, so we did that and then, you know, it's still a little mushy in there, but we tried to rebuild it so that we don't have to mess with it for about 15 more years, hopefully.
I thought it was great when I drove it, that's
Nice work.
some of the best I've seen in a long time, so. I
Thank
like this, I like your grader, taking a log and doing that, I thought that was a really good idea. too.
Well, someone cut that tree down and left it across the county road, so I stole it and made it into my street board, so.
No, that's a good idea. Then you threw a track, is that what it was?
No, it was, the tracks are worn out on that D60. They got almost 5,000 hours on them. And the master link was failing and it got in a position where we couldn't move it at all, where the track would just break. And so we had Caterpillar come up and then I helped them change the master link and the track. We had to break the track and then press out the old pins and then press new pins in for the master link and put it all back together. But
You use like a hydraulic press to press those pins out?
yeah, in the old days, you used to be able to beat them in with a big sledgehammer, but nowadays it's such a fine fit. They have a 200-ton press that they hang off a crane that's about half the size of this table. That
Wow.
you press those
Press
in
it
there.
for that, that's cool.
So we did get new tracks. They were delivered yesterday from Power Motive Corp. I keep forgetting to send you the email on that, but they were.
We budgeted for that, didn't we, for that? That they probably,
There's money in the budget.
okay,
Yeah, but yeah, we're trying to just essentially finish the passes on what tracks we have left. And then soon as we're done, we're gonna put the new ones on, but they're to the point when I get to the dozer in the morning, I'll tighten 100 track bolts every morning. They just won't stay tight, so
they're just that worn out.
the good news is though, is that tractor has been ran very consistent and forward and reverse, and it's never been ran fast over rock. So when we had them measure it, we only have to replace the tracks and not the whole undercarriage. So long as that tractor is still ran in slow speeds and forward and reverse, we should be able to stretch that undercarriage out to about 10,000 hours, and then we'll have to do
Wow.
tracks and a whole undercarriage then, but most people are doing their undercarriage about 5,000 hours, and ours is at 90% of new because of the way it's been ran so consistent.
Wow.
So that saves a lot of life and a lot of money on that dozer.
So you're open the top of Ophir, Cinnamon is open, where you guys got your machines now?
Engineers open.
It is, okay,
Yep, I opened all of Engineer yesterday. and met Uray County on County Road 17, Mineral Creek today.
So, Uray did come up from below finally, good.
So they plowed most of Mineral Creek, so I just went ahead and plowed their section of Engineer, all the way to Hinsdale, so. I mean, I don't like plowing Mineral Creek and they did it, so I figured I'd help them out and do their part.
Yeah, that's a rough one.
Well, I just don't like it because it's a mud hole and it's flat and you gotta push snow forever.
Sure.
So,
Then, Placer was partway open, or all the way? I
no,
talked to skiers who are up there and they said they could drive partway up or from the Picayune side maybe, or I don't know.
it always melts all the way up to the Frisco Mill. And so I moved the dozer today from Mineral Creek to Picayune. And then I'll come across Picayune, Placer, and then up California Hurricane after that.
Yeah, maybe those guys skinned in there, the way they talked, it was open to Placer.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's one thing that I think we're gonna be able to get, to the fall or something, but the Picayune Road, it's getting to a point where we're gonna have to do some serious work in there. It's gonna have to be addressed.
like drilling and blasting.
I hope not.
That little ledge, that's.
Well, the other thing too is it's either drill it and blast it, crib it, or we move the road and see if we can get some private property owners to let us put it somewhere else. But it's at the point when I take the D6T up it, I have to turn my blade as far as it can go and my corner bit will scratch the inside rock. And I'm hanging like 4 inches of track off the outside.
Yeah,
So it's, since I've been here in 3 years, I've watched about 3 feet of the shoulder go.
Yeah.
Well, and the problem with it is you go up there and it's like, where do we get material to build it back up? It's been robbed for so many years. And Louis was telling me today, who was the superintendent before Tedeschi? Started with a B, I can't remember his name. Bondito. He built that with a D4, so it was never,
smaller.
it was always meant to be this tiny little, barely get anything up at road. But it's something that we're gonna have to address at some point. And we can either crib the outside of it and haul the excavator up above and then pull material and bring it down, or it needs to be shot, or we need to come over more towards Animas Forks and come up above the cliffs with a new road, but something in there is gonna have to happen huge in the next few years, or we're gonna end up closing it is what's gonna
Well, you
happen.
don't want that cat rolling off of it, so.
Yeah.
What's I don't know which is cheaper. I mean, cribbing's gonna be expensive because it's labor intensive and blasting and drilling and blasting is expensive, so.
I'm already thinking next year, I'm gonna change my route and I'm gonna come up Placer and do it in reverse. And I'm not even gonna come down the front of it. I'm gonna let it melt out, because this year when I went up it, there was ice on it. And it's getting to the point where the risk isn't worth
Too
it.
dangerous, yeah.
There's too much
I
risk
think that's
involved
a
with
good
it.
idea, just let it melt out.
Until we can get it a little bit wider or something like that, but the access is getting to be pretty difficult up there.
Yeah, that's pretty narrow.
Also on, well, is there anything else on the April report you guys are wondering about?
Oh,
Marmon's got the D6 in on Stony yesterday again. So we put this spray on it, and I think it's just these long weekends. It seems like the spray works, but it doesn't hold for 4 days. So with Memorial Day weekend, they got into it, chewed it up. Michael spliced some of the wiring back together and was able to get it started. It's throwing 4 codes, but we got it down to Cunningham, and Caterpillar is gonna have to come assess it and see what needs to be done, but.
yeah, one thing I do sometimes is I just leave loose wires on the ground. So they got something to chew on.
We've
If it works, if it does work.
We've tried that, we've tried the salt lick, we've tried the hot sauce, it's whatever, I don't have the problem with the tea. But that D6N, man, there's like prime rib sitting in that thing for them things, so.
Tie Adobe to it over the weekend.
Yeah, it's,
Once you don't know what you're thinking about doing with cat this time, knows.
well,
wiring.
what we've talked about is one of the biggest expenses is having them come up and like. Cut these wires and solder them, and so this is the 4th time on this dozer in 2 years. So we're talking about maybe having Cat put plugs on it, on all the wires, so that when this does happen, we can just go buy a wire with a plug on it, and change it out.
I thought you were gonna electrocute the marmots.
I like that though, too. We can figure that out.
Set an electric fence perimeter around it.
I'm game for that. That would work.
Actually, some people do chicken wire, but then I've seen them dig under the chicken wire and get in there, so.
Well, an engineer yesterday, I watched a marmot, when I was cutting the drift up there, it was like 15 to 18 feet deep, and that marmot tunneled from his hole in the ground 18 feet up and came out the top of the snow.
Holy cow.
So that really showed me like how serious they can be.
Perseverance.
Yeah.
Is there, this is a really dumb question, is there any way to seal off the cat better so they can't get in it?
Where they got into it, there's a ripper on the back of the end, and what happens is the hydraulics will bleed off over time, and it creates that void in the back. What we did is we took like chicken wire and shoved it in there and spray foamed it with that it's that green spray foam that has the arsenic in it, so if they chew it, it'll kill them. And they still chewed through that.
Doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, so it
And
probably,
all that foam they sealed off probably the west stove with, remember they had those big pipes and they put foam, they ate it all.
yeah. This is like that green, there's arsenic in the spray foam, and they chewed right through it and went right back in there. We've talked about putting a chain off the roll cage to where we could chain the ripper up and it won't bleed off then. But I'm really scared to do that because if an operator ever got in there and forgot that chain was hooked and set the ripper down, he'd tear the roll cage off the dozer. So I don't really want to do that because human error can make that even worse. But that's the problem we constantly have at the end is the hydraulics bleed off over a few days. And once it does, where that ripper, when it's up, it just leaves a void underneath the back of the cab. And that's where this problem's coming from.
Didn't you say you use Irish Spring or something like that, Pete? Do you still do?
No,
that?
we use extreme hot sauce. Up in Ross Basin and, it worked. I mean, they got into it and burnt their little faces and they remembered it, but.
Have you tried that, Rusty?
We've tried some hot sauce. I think the
They
problem
said
with,
thanks for the condiments.
I think the problem with it is anytime it's just gonna sit over a long weekend.
Right.
I kind of switched it around this year because Stoney's always been our main problem. And so we skipped Corkscrew and tried to get up Stoney sooner so that we could maybe deal with this before they all woke up. But I mean, it's like a sea of them up there already.
They're everywhere now already.
Yeah, so, I don't know, next year for Stony, I mean, we're getting to the point where it's like, we don't even know if Stoney's worth it anymore. If this kind of damage is gonna keep happening, so. Next year, I think what we were talking about is once we start Stony, we're gonna stay on it every day till it's done. That way that there's, if we have to work through the weekends, but.
Or just let it melt down a little bit more before you go up or something.
Yeah, the problem with
Because
it
it's
is,
not worth that damage.
yeah, the problem with it is it's the back side of it, if we let it melt all the way out, it'll be until July,
Well,
so.
and then they always try it on the top, they try to go around some of those drifts and trash the tundra, so.
Yeah, so we might try it different with Stony next year, and it just, once we start it, we're just gonna stay on it every day. And then that way, it's like the tractor's getting sprayed every day, and I mean, that stuff works, but you have to put it on every single day.
Every day.
Yeah, so. Yeah. One other thing that I wanted to bring up, I talked to Jeff, out there, we call it the raceway, the straightaway out there at Eureka. When I first started, Dave channeled that river over and got it away from the road. And it's moved all the way back over. There's two power poles that are in the middle of what essentially the river is now.
Yeah,
Jeff expressed concern, we have a major log jam that I don't know if we need to get a hold of the property owner or not up there at the Silver Wing. That's hung on the rest of that old bridge up there. But there's probably 400 logs in the river. And if it ever breaks the rest of that bridge, we're gonna have
is it
some
from
big.
is it from the avalanche or from?
Yeah, it's from the avalanche, but it's hung on that bridge.
Oh, great. Huh.
Yeah, so, yeah, we're worried about that coming down. He expressed concern of like a log coming down and then taking out telephone and stuff. So we have our excavator out there. I'm just gonna let you guys know. I'm gonna move it back over to where Dave had it. But this is something where we're having to move this river every other year to get it away from the telephone poles in the road. And maybe down the line, like next winter or something, we can come up with a better plan to get this, like actually move this farther
I'd
from.
have to probably talk to BLM and Corps of Engineers to see if they've got ideas for,
Yeah,
I mean, it is a meandering river, it's gonna go like this, but if we can, you don't wanna channel them, cause then they go like that, but if there's a way to take the meanders away from here and put them over there, but, it's gonna take permission from Corps of Engineers to do something like that.
yeah, but it's just, for now, we're just gonna get it away from the telephone poles, cause if we have debris that comes down. That's the main concern, is it hitting a pole or hitting a pole and then backing water up and flooding the road,
Is
so
that where Edith Gulch slide comes down or?
it's right before it.
Right, okay.
Right before it on the left, there's two poles like,
Yeah, I know where they are.
yep, so, and they're in about 2 foot of water right now, so. Yeah, I just wanted to let you guys know that I'm gonna move that water back over just to get it away from the poles, but. It's just gonna be a little movement for now, but
You don't, do you have to have, who owns that property?
we do.
Okay, that's within our right of way.
Well, that's part of the San Juan, that was all Ken Ross's property, from my
Oh.
understanding that they donated to us, right? That was all Ken Ross on the left side of there.
Don't make assumptions.
Yeah, not all of it.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
you might even just ask Lisa or somebody like that, cause I know they own like the Forest Queen and all that, they own that, and I wonder if some of that goes over, but. It doesn't hurt to give them a heads up, just in
Yeah.
case some of their, if you're gonna,
I think you need to contact.
I'll let them
BLM
know,
And the court.
okay,
Yeah.
I'll let them know.
That Tucker's pretty reasonable in the court, just give him a call, you just give him a call or let you know let him know what you're up against, no, it's not gonna be a problem, I don't think.
yeah, especially with those poles out in the middle of the river.
Yeah.
And that's a big factor, so,
Yeah,
but
Um,
I would definitely do that.
that, and then the other thing that it's about time to do, that Louis been informing me that it's time to do it again. The gravel pile that we got at Eureka, that's all because it always builds up underneath the Eureka Bridge. And it's getting to the point where we need to clean out underneath that bridge again. We'll do it in the fall, but it is to the point where we gotta, it just, for whatever reason, it all wants to sit underneath that bridge.
Just flattens out.
Yeah, so, it's about time to clean that out
You
again.
gotta talk to the Corps about that one too.
I'll bring it up to them, but I just want to let you guys know that we do have some like water mitigation that we need to do in that area. Probably in the
But we
fall.
can, all that stuff you take out, you can pile on the side and we can crush it though, right?
We're gonna stockpile it again so that if we ever, want to bring a crusher in and crush it again, we have that option,
Sure.
but. Yeah, we're not gonna throw away free material.
No, it's
We're
right.
not gonna
it's right
keep
there.
it.
Yeah.
So,
I think the last time we did it, the court wasn't concerned too much about being in the river. But, and removing the gravel, but getting in and getting out was their concern.
okay,
Well, on the bank, so,
So, yeah, so definitely you need to talk to them and come
okay.
up with a plan that they're good with.
Yeah, and this is something that when we do that, I wanna do it in the fall when it's low water, like October or something, so. We have time, I just wanted to let you guys kinda know,
sure.
some of the issues that I'm starting to see out there, so.
Rusty, there are also a ton of logs up by Grass Gulch, like County Road, Wigger, Pekin Road.
Yeah,
It's not near the electric lines. When they start breaking loose, they're gonna be a
Oh,
problem.
they're in the river there.
Yeah,
Okay.
that one's a hard one because they're all hung up on the old hydro dam there, and it's like, I've looked at that before. And, I don't know where things would sit with that, but might end up, damaging that old hydro dam, which
Right.
is probably pretty
Definitely
historic, so. We've kind of just,
let them be.
we'll deal with them, I guess, if they come down,
Okay.
so.
I was gonna let you know on the queue too, get together, I found those new, driller and blasters that are pretty readable, and I'm using them twice now. Might not be as expensive as we think, just in that one section of a queue.
Well, the other thing too that we
Yeah.
can do is we can drill it in-house. We could just drill it in-house and then have someone just come load and shoot
Load
it,
and shoot, yeah,
and that would save a lot of
Yeah.
money.
right,
I bet we could probably work a deal with the town and borrow their compressor. And then we could just drill it in-house, so. Yeah, that's something that we should talk about.
Yeah,
But it's definitely moving that tractor up there today. It's like, and then the inside where the ditch should be, there's all that rock. And so you're already scraping the inside and then your right track goes up on that rock and,
yeah, it's
Leans
all
you about-
camber and.
well, then you're hanging the track this much, but then you're putting all that weight on the outside of the road and it's all wet and you're just kind of like,
You know what, I'd let it melt out, Rusty.
well, it always does melt
Yeah,
out.
that area melts out.
But we
You
just,
still gotta get up. but-
we get up there to plow it, but I
Yeah.
think we're gonna plow. It's gonna take longer next year, but I'm gonna come up Placer and down and then turn around and go back through Placer. But
There
the
you
reason we don't do that is because plowing up through the gold, above the Gold Prince is so hard
Hmm.
on that steep. It's always so steep and deep
You
in
walk the
there.
cat up the snow and then come back down.
Not in there, it's so steep,
Too
like,
steep, okay.
it's, I don't know exactly how that's gonna go, but. Dave said that, he always had trouble with trying to go that direction, so that's why we go the other way,
Well, and if it comes down to safety, let it melt out.
yeah.
It's not worth you rolling that cat off of that. so.
Yeah, and PQ and Placer is not that important of roads,
No,
so.
People like the loop, but it's still, it becomes a safety issue, because that is really narrow right there.
Yeah, like I said, I'm hoping that we can just address the road in there eventually and hopefully fix it up and then, yeah, shouldn't have any problems with it then, but it's just something where. All the material's been stolen for 20 years and it's at a point where there's nowhere to get the dirt anymore, and so now it's becoming a larger project than it ever was
Sure.
before, so.
Certainly had a couple wrestling matches with my dirt bike there.
Yeah. But
All right,
that's all I had. I just wanted to ask, Melissa was still asking if we're scheduled for the June 11th to go look at the North Star, at 1:30. Do you know if that's still,
I don't have any reason, at this point, I don't have anything else on, my agenda that would push that back or something, so.
okay, all right.
Where are we at for, putting new help wanted, applications out?
So we put it in the paper. We posted it on our webpage. Rusty put it on Facebook. We've got it posted on both doors. We got 2 applications the first day and then haven't had a word since.
Okay,
But yeah, we've got it out there, so.
all right, all right, well, thank you,
yeah, thank you, Rusty.
yeah.
All right, thank you guys.
Careful.
Right. Moving on to our correspondence here, we have letter from Dustin Eldridge about the county wildfire crew. I was thinking we should probably just respond and address Dustin, but I was hoping we could get an update from Clark at the fire department, saying if they've applied for any grants and where that might be at.
Will and I talked about today, is
Yeah.
I wanna know that they're, at least trying for grants and something like that, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, when
Is that-
I contact Clark and ask him if he can give us an update on. If they are still pursuing this, which is what we encourage them to do, and
Sure.
come back next year budget time,
Yeah,
see what the status is.
Yeah, I want us to be the last resort, I want them to pull off, get a good grant, and maybe we could, help them match or something like that, but I just wanna try to exhaust all resources before we consider anything like this, so.
and fire is one of the few things that the federal government has not really messed with a whole lot.
Yep.
It's
So far.
Yeah, maybe that thing will change when fire season really hits here and the checks start flying out, but so far, the budget cuts. To
I mean,
all
they
the other
did-
public land
They
agencies
originally
not
did
follow fire.
I think they cut some temporary firefighters and put them back on and stuff like that, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the thing that they cut, and, you know, Nick mentioned it at the last meeting, was that, you know, a lot of his people were red carded and they do a lot of the administrative and the support staff. So
Yeah.
those people are gone, so, I mean, while the firefighters are out there, but. the
Yeah, everybody else.
Supporting.
You gotta
support
have an
staff
incident
may
command
not be.
team and all that.
It's like, yeah, it could be.
Yeah. But yeah, it'd be great to get an update before we get Dustin response there, but.
Right, and we did
We can
say, we'd look at it. Budget time
Yeah,
instead of the middle of the year or something like that, so.
yeah, it's just that additional $100,000 expenditure on top of the other. You know, $120,000 for the CBAs and then the bunker equipment and everything else was just.
Yep.
It was too much to do everything at once, and when we asked the fire department what their priorities were and where the priorities lay, they said that they needed their equipment updated, so.
Yep. And they had
This is much choice.
they got a good deal on it, the timing was good as far as a good deal, so.
It wasn't, I mean, it was needed, but it had to get updated, the CBAs.
Right,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
the company wasn't gonna do them anymore, right, they went out, they stopped making them.
Well, they timed out, like they have date stamps, so they have to get replaced by that time.
Right, and then, the company that we got them from,
Wasn't servicing those anymore.
right, but then we got that deal where they said, hey, we're gonna, cause those were all demos,
They're
I think.
basically demos. yeah.
Demos, so, and
Yeah,
it
that
was
was a big
like,
deal.
I think it was like half price or something. like
Yeah,
that, wasn't it?
and they have all the bells and whistles.
Right,
You know, temperature sensors and community comms on all the
Nice.
units. So it was
Yeah,
great,
that-
great deal.
and I mean, I know they gave us that, you have until, the company said you have until Thursday, you know, on these demos, and we
Yeah.
just had to do it, I mean, that's a huge savings, so,
Yeah.
and the fire department has to have that stuff, so.
Yeah, that's good, good
Yeah.
call.
Yeah, hopefully this year we can make some more moves with the wildland crew though.
Yep, I think it's a really good idea.
I agree, yeah.
Yeah.
Our next correspondence, we have a letter from Gloria Cash Berger at the town of Silverton. For clarification on some of the items we discussed with affordable housing. Although I wrote kind of a draft response I'd like you guys to kind of look over, and we can talk about it and you can give me your thoughts, but I mean, I think that she or the town members felt slighted by our conversation regarding lodging fees and town contribution to affordable housing, and we never meant to, we never.
That wasn't
We-
intended to be a slight.
No,
Now, I mean, I did mention as far as the towns, you know, they don't put much money into the clinic, and there's one other thing.
yeah, I think it all focused around the request that we had from the Silverton Family Learning Center and the deficit that they were facing of twice what they, you know, asked for a request from us is that.
Right,
You know, every option for a deficit that large needs to be, you know, looked at, and every option needs to be kind of explored, because
yeah,
the
I don't think any,
budget shortfall would be
I don't think.
better
any
part of
slight
$100,000 is
yeah.
not something that our lodging tax fund is gonna be able to cover for the.
Right,
for the-
that had to be
for
a
the long term.
one-time thing, they have to, SFLC is just gonna have to, unfortunately, they'll have to readjust. And I'm hoping, you know, cause they had, that was because of, money that was normally coming in was cut off, wasn't that right, Willie?
Yeah.
That they got, I'm hoping that another source, hopefully, in today's times, who knows, but I'm hoping another source might pop up or something to help support them, so.
Yeah,
Um,
but yeah, just, you know, and there are a couple other things in this letter that I kind of wanted to talk with you guys about, and I think we're gonna need longer discussions about it, but. You know, we had discussed, you know, when the housing authority project was coming forward to us. We kind of said that we weren't really quite sure that our contributions could support a housing authority with our
Hmm.
small community in the long run, and I don't know how we feel about that now with the current project, but I think we need a lot more information and some discussions, you know, and work session with Ann in the town and really discuss, you know, I think we can re-examine whether we want to, you know, participate more fully in the housing authority, but also, you know, I think once grant money starts to drop here from federal funding, it's gonna be really tough for our community to continue to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to support a housing authority. That's kind of not what I'm feeling so far, but I think I could be persuaded, or, you know, if we can see some numbers that show us differently. Couple, other things in here. The town kind of mentioned their financial struggles with the accounting error that led to overspending. We've never had any formal conversation with the town about that, and so if that's something that the town is really undergoing and needs to have, you know, agreements on our intergovernmental funding, then they need to, you know, kind of talk to us about it. You gotta be honest, the only thing I've really heard, you know, about it is not exactly source material. But yeah, I just in the letter that I wrote, the biggest thing I just wanted to kind of stress is that, you know, we're not trying to, you know, foster division or hinder progress of anything. We're here to work with the town. I just, you know, I think a little bit of misinterpretation in our discussion about, you know, having town involvement on other projects, but I think, you know, I hope I speak for all of us when I say we all, you know, really respect and appreciate the town's,
Of course,
you know, efforts in moving affordable housing forward.
really been very proactive, yeah.
And the only other thing is that these, the funding and the things that we have from the counties, you know, and the town's contributions here is it doesn't go back very far as far as the county's contributions, and it goes back to the timeline when the town stepped in to be a part of this. But the other thing that I kind of wanted to stress in my letter is that the gratitude that we really have to you, Willie and Scott, and former commissioners and staff for really, you know, fighting through that project, because it was really unpopular for a very long time, and it took a lot more work and effort than it was really planned to be for the county, and it was, even through deeply unpopular times, a really great thing for our community. And that
I remember
we can't forget that.
people were
Part of it.
so against it because they thought, well, if there's all those new homes and stuff for sale, it's gonna bring down their value, and look what's happened to all our values. They're like out the roof, you know. So it's, I don't know, even when I campaigned, I went to a couple of the hardcore naysayers just to, I know I wasn't gonna get their vote, but I just wanted to hear what they had to say, because they were so against the affordable housing project. And and the way I look at it, now look at it, so.
Yeah,
Well,
I
it
agree.
even sat vacant for how many years, Willie? We, even after we put the infrastructure
Oh,
in, it was still fine.
we hadn't,
So-
after my first term, my second term's goal was to get that going, because we just, and we did get it going. That second term, but it took a bit. It was a big project, and just, you know. I'm thrilled every time I drive by there now. So,
Yeah,
yeah, there's a lot happening down there.
Um,
So, I just hope that, the town, hope it didn't hurt their feelings, and
Yeah.
I mean.
and that's really the
And
first thing.
I said a couple blunt things, I'll admit it, as far as funding for the clinic and things like that.
I think it's just something, you know, it's a reality that we're gonna have to face as a community if we wanna continue to fund some of these ambitious projects.
Right.
Wildland fire crews, new ambulance buildings, I think we've been saving for, so we'll be on that one, but, support of the, expanding local health infrastructure, our health department, once COVID funding starts to dry up, these are all good things that, and the town, and the town, I'm sure, has a laundry list of things that they'd like to discuss too.
And the big thing to think about is it's not us or them, it's all of us working for our community, both town and county, so how can we
Yeah.
work together to accomplish those goals, so.
Sure. And the other,
This is a good letter, Austin.
yeah, thank you. The last thing that I kind of said on there too, I don't really feel that having a budget meeting in the fall is really adequate for addressing these issues. I think we need to try and push to start meeting quarterly again. If we can meet once every 3 months, I think with the town board members, I think that would be great, and I'm a little frustrated that the last few meetings that we've had with the town, it's kind of an opportunity for outside entities to skip 2 meetings, to combine 2 meetings into one. But I think, with how hard it is to get, 10 people plus, at least 12, in the same room together and scheduling, that we really need to focus on trying to foster discussions and not have presentations during
Oh, I see what you're
during
saying.
these meetings.
I agree with that a lot,
Yeah,
I mean,
like that last one.
Yeah, I mean,
That's all it was.
So much time was,
but like, I mean,
the tri-state one.
and that's something, I mean, they were needed, but by the time you had, the joint presentations to the joint boards. And plus they had their regular meeting schedule.
right, it was time for their
It was
meeting.
like there was no discussion between the boards as far as
Yeah,
Right,
county,
exactly what happened.
and so, yeah, so.
yeah, I just wanted to put
Kind of
that
miss
in
the
there.
purpose of
Yeah.
having meetings.
Yeah. So yeah, I just wanna kind of do that too, and I'll polish this up if you guys think it's on the right track, and
Yeah,
send it to you guys for, more full review, and we'll run it through Dennis too, and make sure we're not activating the electric wires,
Yeah, no, I think that's it.
but I think, yeah, I think it'll be right.
Yeah, and I, and I think, and I think Gloria, just wanted to make us aware that, they are doing things and they are working on stuff, and they have some, their hands are tied in some places too, so.
Sure,
Well, it's, yeah, so.
but I'd appreciate hearing that from them,
Yeah.
rather than hearing it on the street,
Makes sense.
yeah.
I agree with you. I think we need a few more joint meetings where it's not presentation and there is some open discussion.
Yeah.
Whether it's a work session on whatever, but we need to have some more.
Any further discussion on that before we move on to the next one?
I think
Nope.
we're right on that.
All right.
No,
Thank-
good, that was a good
thanks, guys.
response.
Yeah. Next we have a letter here from Hillary Cable for Anvil Mountain. We have just discussion here, stating that the county's commitment to sell lots at the fair market rate of $30,000, that the expectation that buyers would promptly within 2 years develop those properties into primary residences. We've definitely discussed this at length over the last 2 years. I don't speak too much for Willie, but I think from our perspective as commissioners, we've been trying to give some folks time. The building cost is probably all but doubled. And funding has just gotten more and more difficult to obtain, to build houses. Interest rates have gone up, so we've tried to give people a little bit of grace with the economic disparities that they faced in building. But I think that, yeah, I mean, we're on board with the, trying. You know, tell folks that at this point, it's time to get the year time clock running or forfeit their lots.
What I put together was a letter. Stating, tell us where you are in the process. And give us a schedule on how you're gonna get this accomplished ASAP,
Yeah,
because,
How long have some of those lots been held, like 3 or 4 years or?
Oh, yeah.
Longer.
There's a
I've
couple.
been on the waiting list for 4 years.
Yeah,
Wow,
we've got one that's 3 years and 2 that are 5.
they've
But
had,
we got hit with COVID and then we pushed that,
Right.
that was 2020 was when mostly a couple of these people got on, so.
yeah,
But yeah, no, it's time for them
I
to,
think that's fair.
I mean, yeah, they just need to let us know that, they're gonna do it and they've got a plan to do it, because that was the whole purpose, was to get these lots developed.
Sure.
and I think, in discussing any lots that are not on there and discussing the wait list, we need to have we need to have a more serious work session and discussion with the housing authority and folks. $30,000 for a market rate lot was a long past. And
That's what it was 4 years ago,
I
and I
think-
could have built 4 years ago, and. No,
and you currently own another home in Anvil.
and people who were given those lots already own homes in town. There are people that don't live in town that were given those lots.
But on the wait,
I've been
but on the
told there
wait
was a
list,
person in Texas that.
the
was
wait-
given one of those lots.
the wait list. For the other affordable housing unit homes was changed at the discretion of the housing authority, and we supported that decision. And before we make any kind of decision on what we'd like to do. In the event that these folks are not able to build in the next years, I really want to weigh. The discussions that we have with the housing authority on those.
Wasn't one of our parameters, though, is that, either had to be. A local, or you had to rent a local, you could build and then rent a local, wasn't that one of the parameters?
But the conditions were for what we would call the market lots, because there was no income restrictions on it.
Right.
Was that, you either had to, it either had to be your primary residence. Or you had to rent it to somebody to be their primary resident,
Okay,
and those were the only 2 conditions at that time.
so Hillary, you're mentioning somebody from Texas, did somebody, this is just out of ignorance, because I can't remember, did somebody from Texas? Build a house and they are now renting, so that's where they just haven't built,
Billy, his name is Billy. He's a lot next to Mark and I.
say that
His
again,
name is Billy, he uses his house a lot next to Mark and I.
okay, but
He is not in Colorado.
He's not from Texas.
He's not from Colorado.
This is runner Billy.
Yeah,
I can't remember Billy's last name right
he's
now.
good friends with Howie.
Been a really long time Hard Rock 100 runner and supporter of the community,
Yeah,
but he doesn't live
he
here.
planned on building and living in Silverton.
Yeah,
He just is basically, I need to confirm it, but he basically has said that he is not gonna do that, so.
okay,
so,
he's out.
yeah, I think. Let's make room for somebody else on the list.
Yeah.
And if there's 2 or 3 instances of like that, let's do that too, I mean, 5 years, you've had 5 years to do something, or at least come back to the county and say. The cost went up, we're almost there or something like that, but if they haven't done a thing and haven't even come to the county, it's time to let other people go on the wait list, so I think so. So you've already sent those letters out, or
I've got him out, I gave him 30 days to respond.
that's excellent, okay? Yeah, I think
But
that's,
yeah, I think we do need to, depending on how these fall out, probably have a work session and with the housing authority as to how
Sounds
we
like we
want
need
to
it.
approach those lots, but
Yeah,
I mean. The reality is when we offered those lots at 30,000 a lot, we couldn't give them away at 30,000. I mean, they sat there for 2 years
I
before, Nico finally decided to take a risk and build a couple of houses down there. But yeah, it was difficult. I mean, you can, and
It is hard to imagine, isn't it?
yeah, so.
In today's
And
time.
those prices were set 10 years ago. So even even from an inflationary standpoint, they probably need to be greater than 40,000, and property value is substantially. What you're doing is you're subsidizing the owner. Whatever the difference is between what you're charging for that lot and what market rate is. And back in that time, the market rate was probably about 65,000 a lot. Now it's probably at least double that.
Well, and the other reason we did that was so that we could create a pool. So that attainable, affordable could be built, a little bit of a profit for the building.
We wanted, one thing, we just wanted to get some houses built down there, some people. But yeah, it was to generate some money to help offset the cost for the affordable and attainable.
Yep.
and that shortfall was discussed at the last meeting, and it is pretty substantial.
It's substantial.
I think on a 2-bedroom house, it's $140,000 shortfall for every 2-bedroom house that's built down there, and it's more for a 3-bedroom.
I have one thing to mention though about the market rate lots, which is the 15,000 water sewer towing fee. And we spent $10,000 having to excavate because it's Fair Creek. So yes, the lot was 30, but it was 45 and then it was 55, which I know is still a fraction of any lot in town. But I just want us to be clear, before you do anything, there's more than just a $40,000 lot.
Yeah.
But the same as any house is done, even though the lot price is doubled without sewer and water fees. They've still doubled as well.
And now those fees are 18 grand.
They went up to 18
Yes.
grand. Okay.
Yes.
Area median income has also increased,
Yes.
but not as much as property values.
The property value's been pretty exponential.
Interesting enough. So. In 2014, when we were coming up with these numbers, the 100% of median income was for one person was 42,000. Today it's 71,000. So basically in 10 years it's
Not quite double, but
so
substantial.
yeah. And 125%, which is what the limit is on the attainable houses, the ones in the middle that we had income on. That for one person is now 89,000. For a family of 4, it's 127,000. So yeah, those numbers have but the property values there's another thing in your packet from the NACO put together. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to
Not yet.
look at that. But interestingly enough, counties that are heavily
Oh, I did see
covered
that.
by
Yeah,
federal lands, the housing
it's up,
values
there.
go up exceedingly more than the norm, just
'Cause it's-
because of the limit.
It's a more desirable place to live.
It's desirable and the land is limited.
Yep. So the
You got
price,
90% federal land.
you got big demand, low supply, so.
Yeah, it's a real interesting, it just confirms everything we've been saying.
Right,
When you get a chance.
yeah, I saw that in the
And
summer.
we're actually listed on page 34 in one of the charts.
Hmm.
San Juan County as having one of the highest increases in assessed value.
Do we want to move into discussing that report? Because I had a few things that I want to. Talk a little bit about it.
Probably
Yeah.
ask
I have a
Hillary.
couple of questions that are kind of handle for Jason, if that's all right, and
Sure.
it's more or less just to get a better understanding over there. So just being away from town council, I'm not in it all the time, but kind of is the county's role pretty much just administering the affordable housing and then the row of market rate lots? I think just a little confusing because some of the flats are still listed as San Juan County owned. And it's hard to tell if those are like promised people or not promised people, and more or less coming out of it, you know. If all of that does get developed and have the density that town is looking for, it could potentially rise up to like a third of the town's population in that spot. And just, there's tons of kids over there, there's tons of families, the way that it's deed restricted, but there's always gonna be people there, so just. It's more out of curiosity of like, does the county have land that is either able to turn into like a little pocket park over there, or some sort of community space within that subdivision that could be used by the people that live over there.
And presented a presentation that had designs for a park there.
Oh, cool.
So-
You're talking about the towns.
The
affordable housing,
towns.
not the county.
Yeah, I was,
I mean,
In the zoning.
because it's a little confusing over there, with the like, plating, some of it's still.
Cause the counties, like
Sure.
where the boxcar is, that's kind of set aside, and then,
Mhm.
you could say the burrito's been set aside, we can't touch that, so
Yeah.
that's.
Yeah,
Vacant land, and I do see it being used as a sledding hill in the winter.
Yeah. The kids are creative over there.
Yeah,
I mean,
So, yeah, I mean, as far as. A pocket park or a park itself, we don't have any plans at this point. But, yeah, the burrito, for lack of a better word, I mean, that'll remain open. The area behind the houses is gonna stay, is gonna remain open. That's, and, you know, where
where
the
the
boxcar is.
boxcar is, yeah.
So,
I don't wanna say, you know, I think it would be a hard. Decision to remove that element from that space, but it is something that's on wheels. And so if a park, you know, it's a nice big flat space. But it built.
Oh,
it was a requirement,
because it's a historic site.
historic,
Yeah.
it was historic.
Since they destroyed the entire smelter site, they had to leave at least a little vestige.
Yeah,
I was curious about the lot next to Nico and Laurel, cause that gets filled with water, becomes like a little lake. Is that lot buildable? Like, can still like is that still considered a buildable lot? It's the first lot when you roll into Anvil on the Lookers, right? It's the one directly next to
13.
Oh, for
Anvil and, yeah, it's like water, it's like a little, I'm wondering, is that?
it's,
What are we doing to check that?
it's,
Cause I have a proposal, so I wanna know what you're.
it, anything's buildable.
Okay.
I've always thought that was a little bit questionable,
Yep,
but
It's right under the power line.
that too.
Right.
well, it's not under the power.
Well,
No, it's
It's
not.
there's a 70-foot easement for the power line that we can't,
okay.
Right.
but everything's outside of that. So,
I was wondering if that wasn't a buildable lot, cause kind of, I'm here too thinking about the children, and I'm thinking about mental health, and I'm thinking about physical health, and. What I'm witnessing is this really dense population of children in our neighborhood. And small children in our neighborhood, and they can't actually go to the parks themselves. So they're not going to Blue Park and they're not going to Memorial Park, and it's something, if you live in town. It's something I think you can easily take for granted. Like when I lived by the courthouse, I didn't once think about not being by a park. But now I think about it every day. And I've noticed kids playing in the streets. Kids playing in the parking lot at the apartments. I had a child who, the dryer next to my house melts the snow, just right under where the roof sheds, and I saw this little body this winter, and I opened up the window and I was like, oh my God, you're like right where the roof sheds. And to me, what that said is, I'm looking for a safe place to play. And I just think with more people, more cars, and more traffic, we're asking for something that nobody wants. And I really think kids need a safe place to play. And so my proposal is like considering maybe donating a lot, maybe the one that's not buildable, maybe it's a temporary park, right?
So you're saying a swimming pool in the summer and something else, in the skating rink in the summer or winter?
Drying up a little. But, yeah, so I think some water sometimes and it's variable, but I do think it could be more of a temporary solution, or it could be long term, depending on if it gets built or not, but I really do think, I think children need a safe place down there. There's no alleys, there's no sidewalks, and there's no closed park for little kids, and they are playing in places that I'm just like, how is this different than being in the inner city? Like, you're playing in a parking lot, you're playing in the street, like, this is Silverton. Kids need a place to play. And the burrito, I'm sorry, you guys, it's just not that awesome. We're sweating in the winter it is, but like,
But.
it's not that awesome, it's not that awesome for young kids
And it's too close to the highway on the one side.
Okay, and
I
it
mean-
holds a bunch of really toxic stuff that got, I know it's capped.
It's okay,
But like-
I wouldn't worry about that as far
I
as.
just don't think it's like, when I think of Silverton and I go to Memorial Park and I'm like, look at the trees and it's such a beautiful, amazing space and. You know, maybe we call it the county commissioner's park or something like that, but, I'm here to advocate. For mental health, for physical health and for our children, and I think children in Anvil are lacking something pretty important that most children in Silverton take for granted because. Unless you're in Anvil, you're pretty close to a park.
I'm glad you bring it up. I mean, I'm sure when we did this, we were trying to maximize as much space as we could to try to get as many houses, but it is a good idea to be thinking about a park or something like that. Let's think about that. I like the idea,
Yeah,
so. I
I
mean.
think it could easily be part of our work session, where we talk about housing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think we probably need to revisit. For discussion with the town. What their plans are, I mean,
Yeah,
you know. If they're putting the park on the Zanoni property and
Right,
we're putting a park on the backside of the Zanoni property, that probably doesn't make sense.
Right,
right.
but if we can. Set aside some space until that park is actually built, because they'll go for co-funding and it'll take years for a park to physically be there.
Well, and-
It'll happen, so, but.
And when you look at the brilliance of Chicago, like, cause I just had to do this because the middle school is going field work, but part of the brilliance of Chicago is that people had the foresight to set aside land for parks. And so Chicago
New York City.
It's so densely populated and that you have these beautiful green people, which we know, where do people go? If they wanna be outside, they wanna be in nature. So I just think it could be some forethinking on all of our parts to designate space, because it's gonna get sucked up otherwise. And I'm all about affordable housing, I'm all about putting bodies in health. I just also think this is a pretty big indicator of community health. And like, what are we doing if we're not doing it for the children?
Do you think that, I'm thinking of the Zanoni property, like a park on that property, would that be centrally located enough to take care of both the affordable housing of the towns and the the housing in the county? Would that be something to be thinking about as a centrally located park?
It would be closer to all of Anvil than probably Memorial or the school is to 75% of the town.
So that might be something to bring up with the town.
But again, we need to get with the town, and see what their plan is for the Zanoni property, because they've already got.
Well, yeah, and if they're like applying for grant funding for parks and things like that, we definitely don't wanna like step on their toes, like.
Right,
Get with them and see what they got going.
And if they have a park space that's already designated and laid out, it's not like houses have to be built in order for the park to be built, you know, too, which is.
how much land do we have behind the, like market rate homes and things like that? I mean, there is an open area up there.
So essentially, here's the market rate, this is the power line,
Okay,
The power lines.
this is all. This is all open, but it's all hillside. We've got. You know, we've got this lot here and this lot here, up in the field, I mean, they're actually very nice lot.
but we could do something over there, you know, the power line it is.
Well, we can't construct anything. I mean, we can't build any
Can you put a,
structures, but
but can you put a playground up there or something like that, or? I mean, it is under the power.
yeah, I'm
line,
not
right?
sure that. I mean, it's, yeah, I mean, there actually is quite a bit of space between here. And here on the uphill side, so.
I mean, that's pretty good topography right there too, but some of this isn't.
So I don't, I
Or
mean,
is, yeah.
obviously we can look at it, but,
And, show me, is this the lot? right?
That was a little lot, and the reason, I mean, it looks good on paper, but there's actually as you can see by the top, there's a pretty good hill right there, about half of it.
All right, so that's,
I also want to say, in Europe, people had some very cool parks and some very interesting places. There's a little town called Murren, which is above the Lauterbrunnen Valley there, where they had a little park set up next to the gondola tram station that was on a very steep hillside. That was really, really one of the coolest parks I think I've ever seen. I took a bunch of pictures of it. It had a little kids gondola tram that they could go back and forth on between different areas of the park. It was cool. So there can be unique things done in spaces that are not, at what we traditionally think of as.
I will say one thing, well, you remember, because it is a lot of ferretry and a lot of stuff that doesn't wanna grow, but. Remember, we do have a stash of topsoil back on the apartments, do you remember that?
We hope so.
It's still there,
okay,
still there, I, nobody's stealing
Yeah.
it, but I'm just saying,
Well, you never know, that stuff is.
well, I know, it can,
Could be.
it can grow legs, but I'm just saying that.
Yeah, no, we do.
If you needed something to grow back there, you've got a little topsoil.
Well, yeah, and that's the other, thanks for the segue, Pete, because that's my other thing with too, was just last time I was talking to you guys, I asked about just identification and. I'm not expecting anyone to plant trees or anything like that, but I was curious, like in the land use code, it just talks about neighborhoods like matching and. It does feel a bit like Mars down there still. We did get topsoil, we got like $1,000 worth of soil, put it in our yard, had a little bit of extra on the Faircrete and stuff is just going off and like. The tiniest bit of soil. And so I'm just curious.
it's eroding off, is that what you're saying?
No,
Or
like
where
it's just
growing?
growing soil.
Oh, good,
But like you have to have soil, and so I was just curious too, I was looking up some. Just like mental health and community health and obviously like green spaces and. Last time I was here, I talked to you guys a little bit and I just remember you guys were like, oh yeah, there might be money, there might not, we'll look into it, blah, blah, blah. I was just curious if there was any. Updates about even something like, yeah, helping with soil or a stipend for soil just to start spreading, just to. Help greenify a bit down there.
but
What
the,
does grow down there are the prickliest weeds I've ever seen, in town ever, because.
they're noxious, some
What
kind
thrives.
of noxious.
Yeah,
But, are you talking about? Because to me, it's a homeowner's responsibility, if you want a lawn and trees, you have to plant it.
yeah,
Are you talking about other areas, other than that? I mean, because I do feel like it's, if it's I mean, any house you see built, the homeowner then will landscape it themselves. I don't think it's the county's obligation or or whoever developed the thing, it's not their obligation to. I mean, if you're trying to sell homes in a subdivision, I suppose you would build the home and then. Put in at least sod or something maybe, but the rest, the shrubbery and things like that, I think that's purely the. Discretion of the homeowner, I mean, that's my parents, they planted gardens and trees that are now 30 or 40 years old and huge trees and stuff, but they did all that themselves, nobody did it for them.
yeah, we've been doing that too. I just
Okay.
wonder about, I've just seen it both ways. I've seen it in communities. I know Ridgeway, obviously property taxes, very different story. But like, there's this brand new neighborhood in Ridgeway that you can just see like where the town did the sidewalk and where the town did a curb. And the town did green stuff in between.
Right,
And then people who own the homes, like, yeah, they're responsible for their lot, so there's this like, kind of like shared. Creation of beauty or. Community, so I just didn't know.
It's
If it
part
was
of that,
possible.
if the town did that as a development, that's a part that gets rolled into the cost. Of that building too, to create that infrastructure there. And Silverton in general, definitely lacks the sidewalk. And beautifying infrastructure. I've been fighting with my yard for 10 years, used to live there. It's still mostly gravel and dirt.
No, but it's even different, I promise you, like,
oh, down there. yeah.
it's different, and
Well,
I.
yeah,
hear what
sure,
you're
it's been
saying.
120 years and. It still doesn't look that great in mine.
I just think
backyard.
I think it's a unique situation down there in terms of topography and history, and so. I just see a different kind of need down there, and I think because it's affordable, it's just more challenging. People are doing things, like our neighbor is growing a lawn, it's beautiful, it's awesome, and people are gonna do the things. I just wanted to follow up because I have seen models where it's more of a joint effort, and especially in like a brand new neighborhood that used to be a smelter. I just didn't know if the county had any, like even what Pete was talking about, the topsoil, like anything that can just help things along. Not for me personally, just for like the grounds of Annabelle.
What was the term that the town used in terms of, they were suggesting that Blair Street open a taxing district to pay for the improvements on Blair Street?
The improvement is.
An improvement
Special
district.
improvement district.
Improvement district.
There is the potential that with discussion in the town, there could be a special improvement district in Anvil that could levy funds to make some of those improvements, for sure.
And there are grants for some of that stuff too, as far as sidewalks and things like that, if I remember, there were. Wasn't Blair Street kind of looking at that, weren't they?
Well.
Or they're not necessarily.
Very unique.
If you guys start,
Very.
if you start pricing out curb and gutter,
That was back in
that's,
the days, you know.
yeah.
I mean, DOLA, because of the state budget, DOLA, which is the impact grants, which is one of our major grant sources. They're not doing any more, grant cycles this year. Usually they do 3. They're not doing any more than, they're hoping to be able to do another one next year. But they have no funding. That's the places where you would go. You know, if you did a special improvement district and the cost was 100,000 and you got 50,000 locally, you'd go to them for the other 50,000. I mean, I'm just throwing out numbers.
Yeah.
But right now, they're shaky to say the least. Now, by the time we got everything together, maybe things would be back to normal. So, I mean, it's not that we shouldn't or couldn't proceed with it. But yeah, it's just between the federal and then the state is not in good shape financially, things have kind of been turned upside down.
Yeah.
Right now. So things that we could have generally looked at as a reasonable possibility is unlikely.
And I think we're just trying to get as much done as far as actually building a home than going farther past that. That may have been all the money we had. I mean,
The town, I think, is already kind of running up against the deadlines of COVID funding for affordable housing. I think, you know, they came at our last meeting with a request of $100,000 as contingency in case their secondary major grant with 450,000 or 75 or 650 or 450,000. Because if they lose that grant, then they could potentially lose the other 650,000 that they already have been awarded. And it's, yeah, just this administration and the changes in funding and kind of the end of the. I mean, it's not gonna stop to be a need in the state of Colorado. But it's kind of like, we may not have this opportunity for funding for affordable housing for another 20 years. If we don't capture what we can now. Yeah.
Do we have that stockpile of topsoil? Do we have any plans?
It's not a very big stuff.
It's not.
I wish, now I kind of wish, I'm glad I mentioned it, but it's not that big, you know what I mean? It's not
It's not,
sorry about that, but
it's not.
I wish I had a magic wand to make it grow, but it's
Well,
not very big.
And we were
I just
so-
meant, I mean, for a little pocket park or something,
Yeah.
it'd be enough for, you know what I mean?
I remember just being so desperate, you know, that we had Brian Fulmer give us Brian the burrito to do a little good job.
well,
It'd be interesting to talk to Anthony too about potential brownfields money there
yes.
too. Cause that would potentially.
Or
be
Mark
a
Rudolph,
source
or
of-
Mark
or Mark
Rudolph,
Rudolph, yeah.
He did give me a bunch of grants at one point that I sent off to Gloria, and I could send them off to you guys too. Because I do want to make this English to town. I think the idea of meeting quarterly is super smart, Austin. I think the Sample Housing Authority connection, like this, because this is a shared space between town and county, it feels like this is in a really important place where the vision was started, but like, we're in this huge growth period, and so. Yeah, how to capture like what's really important in the neighborhood and how to make it quality as well as quantity.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good idea.
Now's the time. and just my final thought, and then I'll stop, is, maybe a greenhouse. Like, I really think, consider if there's any additional land that could possibly be set aside for the community down there. Maybe that, I just keep coming back to that unbuildable lot, but when I just think about markers of health in the community, there's this amazing book called Some Folks, and it's set in Cleveland, Ohio, and it's in the ghetto, and all these immigrants come together and they just all plant one fruit or vegetable, and then all of a sudden there's this community, and I just feel like, what can we put in Anvil that makes Anvil really cool? And what makes it like that, that offsets, right? What makes it not that cool? And-
What about
Cover the
even just
burrito in greenhouse.
instead of a green?
What?
So we cover the burrito in greenhouse.
But what about just like a community garden? It
That's what I'm
doesn't
saying.
even have to, doesn't even have to be a greenhouse. I mean, you can start with a community garden, you just need the top start.
This,
I've seen that in urban areas everywhere. I mean, Yep,
and so maybe it is, maybe the Zanoni lot has the park and the unbuildable lot, maybe at least, maybe that's what it is, like that is the community garden, but I'm just thinking, how do we put some healthy things in that community? 'Cause
how did the, how did the town, fund this playground? Do you remember? At
Memorial Park. or
Memorial Park, where'd that come from?
Initially, or?
How to get there? Did we get a grant to put it there? I'm just trying to think if there was a grant to put it there, would there be a grant to put a little park and playground down at Anvil?
The history, I mean, it used to be Lions Park. I mean, the Lions organization owned that land, they gave it to the town. When the mine shut down. The first time, well, depending on how you count, but, when the Standard Metal shut down. Joel, actually funded a work program to put everybody that was laid up, not
I
everybody,
remember
but there's
that.
like 15, 20 people that were
Yeah,
unemployed, putting the park together.
putting the
up there.
gazebo up
Yeah.
and different things.
Over the years, they got individual grants from GoCo for like the playground itself, or, you know, some of these other things, or to repair the tennis courts or stuff.
Have you guys ever even looked into that at the cost of putting a small playground down there? I'd say like on that unbuildable lot or something, have you guys ever looked at that?
No,
I mean, it's an idea,
Do,
I mean,
sure.
just,
yeah,
GoCo is becoming a more difficult organization to work with as we can,
as you guys
as
know.
we know.
But
Yeah,
that,
like-
but that is,
But there's other
GoPro money would
foundations.
definitely be, but what's a new playground, 10, 20, probably 20,000, 30 or something like that.
and I mean, you can start with a few pieces, and I really think it's the space that's the most important thing, like the building even can come later, but once you lose the space. Then it's done. So I guess that's where I'm really trying to plug it, is how do we preserve that before?
I know that's something we didn't really think about at the time, we're just maximizing. How many houses can we get into this area without? I don't remember thinking about
no, I
parks.
mean,
That's
I mean,
Which is okay, I mean, it's just,
I mean, quite honestly, I mean. We're not developers, but we needed to cover our costs, so
right,
we had to, and the fact that there was just. Such a need for housing, even if people were opposed to it, we, you know, basically what the idea was to come up with a plan to maximize. As much space as we could down there.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, we could still do more. Up in what we call the executive lots, the ones up in the trees. But. If we don't, you know, at some point we may have to put another group of townhomes up there or something. I don't know, we're so limited to
well,
the
let's
space.
get this stuff sold off first and then.
Uh,
Let's try to sell all this first and then.
yeah, no, yeah. No,
We never dreamed we'd be
we'll get
in
it.
the business that we're in here, but times have changed. I mean, I think town and counties have to be involved in affordable housing because.
I mean, again, this is kind of like the preschool thing. The county stepped up to the plate. This really
We needed a preschool.
something the county, you know, counties aren't developers.
You're right.
And in fact, I mean, the plan when we bought the land was, we were gonna buy the land. Or well, actually, we got a chunk of money from Durango Mountain Resort to buy the land.
Yeah.
Cause they were developing, they were supposed to develop in San Juan County, so they had to pay for affordable housing. A fee, so we got 200,000 from them. So we bought the land with that. Two organizations, Colorado Housing Inc. and Housing Solutions, were gonna do the development down there. One was gonna do rentals, one was gonna do, for sale homes, single family homes. And the county was gonna get the grants for water and sewer and streets. Well, Colorado Housing went
belly up.
belly up. Housing Solutions looked at it and said, the only way we can make this work is if we were building tax credits, we'd have to build at least 50 rental units down here. And you can't justify 50 rental units down there.
Sure.
So they pulled out. So, you know, we beat the bushes for years trying to find a developer to come in and do it. It's like, we'll give you the land, but all you need to do is meet these, you know, this many units have to go affordable, this many attainable, this many market rate. We couldn't give the land away.
Yep. So we had to be the developer.
And so we ended up being the developer, and then we ended up, going in and doing the apartments, and, we had to borrow $1.2 million from the, Bank of Uray so that we could do that even after we got, you know, $1 million worth of grant funding to do that. So we're, for the next 30 years, we're paying, $90,000 a year, to,
Pay off that loan.
pay off that loan. So, yeah, we, I mean, I'm real happy that, and I'm, you know, the commissioners are just amazing that they were able to, step in and do this, because it wasn't an easy decision, and it took a lot of political flack, but, you know, and this started 25 years ago, 20 years ago.
Yeah, it's taken a long time to get where it's at, so.
Yeah, I think like there's a vision and a courage there, and I think we're at this moment too where there's this power of maybe of a pause. And just saying like, okay, well, what are some additional needs in addition to bodies and houses? Like, we know that. But what else makes the community? And that's just what I'm advocating for, and I just think, healthy
Yeah.
spaces for children to play is at the top of my list. And I just think with increased traffic in cars, it's just actually not a super safe place for kids to play, and that's not my Silverton.
I mean, and I think, where the county could help would be a donation of land for that, then it's up to the homeowners to develop it, to plant grass or put wood chips or.
Like a community garden.
Or a garden or a playground or anything like that,
The
yeah.
donated thing would be a huge gift, and yeah, especially if that, I just think that one lot, I just don't know how it, I don't know how it.
Well,
So,
we'll
thanks.
definitely think about it. I really appreciate that input, so. Have we answered, well, we haven't answered questions, because there were questions about what we can do, but I really appreciate the input. It's awesome, so. Do you guys have any more questions of us? Cause we're gonna have to keep going here.
I just wanna say thank you for the work the county commissioners have put in over the past 20 years and for seeing it through to the finish line.
Feel like we would not be anything,
I'm just-
so thanks.
Every time I drive on the hill, I count how many houses are there each year. I go, okay, all right. Expanded.
It's getting there.
Yep.
There were 2 houses on my block when I moved in 3
Yeah.
years ago, now there are 7.
Yeah, no, it's I mean, when you look at between the apartments and the houses that are down there, it's actually a pretty good little neighborhood, and by the time it's built out, it is gonna be a substantial portion of the town of Silverton.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why it was good that they actually, you know, that we actually got the town to annex it, so that the people that were living down there were actually part of the town of Silverton and not shut out from, you know, voting for town elections or running for town office.
Right.
So, no, it's a good thing,
Yeah.
and I, you know, I think that, I mean, I'm impressed with Dan. I think he's got a pretty good idea of where to take things, and you know, the housing authority, I think the more we can kind of send stuff in their direction, just because that's what they're gonna be focused on, and we don't have the capacity to be focused on. I think better off we'll be.
And we'd rather not take on any more projects for a while.
You guys have to do
It's, it's just
Give us
difficult.
the land, and then
Willie is
we'll-
our, Willie is our planner, you know, we don't have a planning department.
We'll
like
call
most
the
communities do.
Memorial Garden.
Just to throw something out, you know, you talk about greenhouse. I mean, seriously, what I've been looking at is, it's vertical, vertical,
Mhm,
gardens,
mhm.
you know?
Yeah.
And they're putting them in rural areas, they're putting them in urban areas, places that basically don't have. You know, place to grow.
I thought that's called corn stalks, you know, like 8 foot tall corn stalk.
Yeah, no,
Silverton is a
no,
food,
they're really kind of a neat concept.
And you'd have
Silverton
to,
is a food desert already, and we're probably
Yeah.
having some food insecurity, so the more gardens and people growing food here actually doesn't just protect ourselves, it protects
rhubarb,
the community.
not rhubarb,
Or chickens.
chicken.
All of it, all of it.
High rise chickens.
Yeah.
Thanks for letting me jump on your coattails. I didn't even tell you that was coming, but I saw you on the agenda, and I was like, I'm here.
No, thanks for your input, you guys.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, and then moving on. I got stuff everywhere now. I think we're through correspondence now at this point, correct?
Yeah, we're down to the NACO.
We're down to make it, yeah, so,
And they're,
yeah,
There is-
super
there is-
fascinating.
Yeah.
I didn't get to read this stuff, but I did read the conclusion, and that, it is pretty amazing how. The public lands thing makes the place so much more desirable to live. I mean, homeowners look for homes that are backed up against public lands, so they don't have any neighbors, you know, so.
The one section where they have those little paragraphs of case studies, different communities, and reading through most of those, it's like. Or some of them, it's like, are they still in existence? I mean, you know, the way the Forest Service or BLM have been blowing up, you know, is that. Can they even continue to function, the way they did on.
Right.
No, again, a lot of it was just confirming with numbers, what we've been saying for years, but it.
I still wish we could, use. Not the voting population, but the full summer population to get our Hilton SRS money. It makes so much more sense, you know, just to base it, and the school's the same way, you know, that's all based on. You know, student population or whatever, but it should be based on. Much bigger figures.
Very, the PILT discussions in here, I thought were actually the most interesting part of it, and would love to, you know. Shoot an email to whoever developed this and suggest that, you know, that they look at a couple things, like they look at population and visitation. Versus versus PILT funding to see
Yeah,
kind of the
look at your
discrepancies and the
visiting
disparities
population,
between some counties, because we're not high on the list of PILT counties
Oh, no.
that they have in here. There are others that are as low as we are, but not many
But just,
in this report.
with this, and with, the severe train of these public lands, it just puts so much more impact on everything.
Yeah, and they mentioned that several times, you know, in various ways, that it's like,
Mhm.
you know, PILT is such a small portion of our county budgets, regardless of how much you get, but
Yeah,
yet, you know, increased visitors, search and rescue, emergency
Yeah,
services.
look how much we're
Fire,
pouring
you
into
know.
all those emergency services.
The one thing that I thought
And
was kind of
sheriff's office.
interesting in there too, it was just, I think it was just a comment, one of the quotes. Is when they put the reservation system in place in Yosemite.
Hmm.
Because even though, because of the roads for Yosemite access so much of the backcountry outside of the park. That, and you know, if you were going somewhere else, it didn't matter, you still had a reservation. Their lodging went down 25%. Mariposa County, I think it was, their
Wow.
lodging went down 25%.
Wow.
Cause people don't wanna make reservations.
No, well, it's just they're limited, the number of people that
Oh,
reservation to go through, it's like, you know, you can't just go through Yosemite on certain days, you have to have a reservation. 90 days in advance or whatever it is, to get into the park. Well, sometimes, a lot of people would just drive through the park to get to the other side to recreate out in
Oh,
one
right.
of the national forests or
Sure.
whatever. But you can't get through the park.
oh, so they're charging them to go. And
Well,
you have
it's
to
not
make-
that they charge,
not
they
charge,
always
you have
charge
to
you,
make a
but-
reservation to go through the
But,
park.
yeah, you just can't go get through there.
Just to complicate things.
Yeah.
Huh.
And it's kind of like, it had a serious financial impact on some of the surrounding communities.
Had a couple observations in here that I wanted to kind of discuss. There's one on page 23 in here. And it's the breakdown of how these different pieces were on there, how these different counties get revenue. And notice that two of our neighbors in here, Mineral County and Hinsdale County, are listed in here. And have very high shares of license and other taxes that they receive revenue from. And,
Licenses mean is like, house permits or, cause, I mean, there's. Either number one or number two industry, like in Hinsdale County is house building, I'm sure it's the same in Mineral County.
Interesting though that their property tax values and it's just, I would just be really interested to see what that green bar consists of in Hinsdale and Mineral County, you know? Cause we're on there too as getting some other revenue. But it's not, and it's listed as a percentage, so it'd be really interesting to see, you know, like what kind of numbers they're looking at here. And yeah, I had to flip back and forth from it like several times to find it. But I'd just be interested to know what their other revenue sources are, you know? If they have them in Hinsdale too, like Lake City's unincorporated, so their sales tax is probably gonna be quite a bit higher, cause it's if we're talking about counties and we're not including, you know, town of Silverton in here. Then, you know, we're obviously not making nearly as much sales tax as the town, but Hinsdale is. Since they're making all the sales tax in the county. Mineral County, you know, I don't know. You know, that much about their financial stuff, but I know that they have some. But I think it's mostly the town of Creed that has the.
Yeah, but there's
the
a lot of,
trust.
there's quite a bit of dude ranches around there and stuff,
It's true,
that I'm sure are generating some income then.
yep,
Isn't South Fork probably part of Mineral County too, if I remember?
It might be,
I think.
I
it is.
believe it
I
is.
think it is.
Yeah.
yeah, you're right.
yeah. So just interesting stuff. And then the other was there's the GDP graph on here that looked some of the you know graphs that Willie's put together through the years of, you know, comparative to inflation or you know, or growth and decline. That graph looks pretty
Which
similar.
page was that on?
I'm trying to find it again, but some of these pages really like to stick together on this one. But just talking about, you know, how the GDP of these counties, 16. Just looking at it, you know, the counties with the high share of public lands are the slowest growth. Compared to. No. The blue line at the bottom would be us, you know, it's the high percentage that just showing that these low growth numbers and stagnant growth numbers. Through there and then a big spike during COVID, but I mean, really, it brought us back up into the level of medium and low counties, but the share of medium public lands is, you know, far outstripping. It's kind of like there's a good balance that you want with public lands. If you have too much, your economic chances of success, and too little, then.
Right.
You know.
Austin.
Yeah.
Project is not not, you know.
It is not.
No,
It's Creed,
It's
really.
just Creed.
What county is it in?
What is that?
Is that part of,
It's,
like Del Norte and Monte Vista?
yeah,
Whatever.
yeah.
Is that,
That's
Sawatch?
Watch County, I
That's
think.
what I was wondering, is it Sawatch County there?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably is Sawatch. Yeah, just,
I
Couple
think
things
for a
to point out.
while, and maybe, I can't remember if Hinsdale. I just remember asking a county commissioner from Hinsdale. This was like, say, 15 years ago, whether they had, we're just asking other counties about backcountry regulations, as far as building and stuff like that. And he goes, what do we need backcountry regulations for? I remember that guy saying that. I assume they have, Mineral County was the same way too. They didn't have any backcountry regulations or anything. They may now, but I mean, neither one of those counties did like 15 years ago, so.
Dolores County's just kind of stepping on the boat of them trying to get involved with regulating buildings.
This county
Backcountry.
was way.
Still no
way
building
ahead of the
permits
ball
required
game.
there, at all.
Do you have any more comments on this, Willie, for us? Or?
No, I just,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, I just thought it was, very valuable report on it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm gonna, forward it on to, Region 9. For them to put in their records and read it, because it kind of give you a pretty good snapshot of
Yeah,
what's happening in counties with.
it looks kind of like the one side of Velocity Basin right there, if you took the tram out and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Big Colorado. All right,
All right, we're down to public comment. We do have a few folks online, if anybody who would like to submit public comment for any of the items discussed here today, or any, public comment just in general, please go ahead and do so now.
Good evening, gentlemen. It's Deanne. I just wanted to chime in a little bit, Commissioner Lashley, with Hinsdale County. If you really look at Lake City and Hinsdale, a lot of their vacation rentals and lodging is actually out in the county. And they have San Cristobal Lake that was given to the county. And that
Yeah.
may be some of those kind of licenses and taxes as well.
Sure.
yeah, I forgot about that.
I mean, they're lodging, because Lake City's unincorporated, right? Like,
No,
so,
it's.
oh, it's incorporated?
It's incorporated, but I remember 40 years ago when I was on the town board, at the CML meeting, talking to one of the trustees from, Lake City. And, so much, the incorporated city is so small that a lot of the sales tax is actually happening at, more sales tax is being collected in the county than it was in the city at that time, because
Yeah.
they're, and.
Maybe that's what it was, yeah.
Yeah, a bunch of it, but it's just, it's like that 3-block downtown, and then there's,
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's expanded since then, but.
It's still part of it.
Their
Part of
big
it.
business was,
Out by the lake, yeah.
The town is pretty.
their big
Yeah.
business was a lot of.
Rio Grande.
Second home.
What?
Rio Grande.
Rio Grande County, yeah.
First sophomore.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Oh.
Right there.
Yeah. Or anyone else who has any other public comment? Okay, seeing none, we'll close public comment and open it up to commissioner and staff discussion. Wanna give our joining staff members, see if Bevan had anything you wanted to talk about or pepper us with while he's here.
Yeah, nothing major, I just want to be here for them. And,
Okay, all right.
yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I'll leave you guys read.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Guys, you have any meetings, or Will, you got anything else you wanna add as part of your staff reports here?
We had BPMD, right, in this
Yeah.
time period. EPA is gonna, here's the amazing thing, they wanna finish the repository, of course. But they haven't let out the contract yet to the contractor. I mean, that
They
won't
still
happen,
haven't?
and that won't happen, they won't announce it till, was it June
June,
30th
yeah.
or June? At least, was it the first or is the 15th or the 30th?
So they're missing out on a month of building season.
Well, and that's, you still got a contractor, say you award it, he's still gotta mobilize, so I think we're talking mid-July or August, it's like, what are you guys doing here? And I think, part of it is just the times, you know, as far as getting. things
Yeah,
going.
well, I think that,
Um,
that's part of the problem.
I felt for them just like I did, talking to, Nick Glidden, you know, it's hard having morale when you think your job is gonna be cut. And then, the other thing that happened is Melissa, who is, head of the Mine Land Reclamation Division of the BLM, they told her to go back to her other job. They've cut her out of this completely, and she's been with them for 5-7 years, something like that. And she was told to go back to her old job. So now, are these projects that the BLM is doing, are they gonna get finished, do you think? I was in shock, and
Anybody's guess.
and we did discuss, you know, with EPA, it's been 10 years, let's get going on a solution. You know, whether it's a state-of-the-art lime treatment plant, whatever, let's get going and stop. The other thing is just, you know, the longer they do this, the more that settlement money dwindles, you know, so we really want to keep that settlement money for a lime treatment plant, so.
That blows me away on that.
On the contract.
That should have been a 1 year, 2 year thing max,
2-year
project
max, yeah,
max.
yeah, I mean,
And then not completed, I mean, dragging your heels now and not getting it done, they need to get it done this year. That's
and
unbelievable.
do you think it was some things out of their control in a way, as far as, or did they just not get it going soon enough?
As far as,
Letting in a contract,
I think it got hung up in it several places along the way, you know, I
As
mean,
far as-
the whole process is.
I
I
mean,
mean, it's beyond their control at this point.
But-
They throw
but-
stuff out.
but
So-
the person,
I have a hard time feeling sorry for that.
but the first and second years,
Sorry.
you know.
But yeah, they should have been done.
Yeah,
But there weren't administration problems then, now there's administration.
I understand that.
Those first, they should, you're right, it should have been done. in
You were
2 years.
like this, so. They decided that maybe they don't need to pave the top of.
the top,
Yeah.
nice. That become lower priority going? That's
Well,
good.
they realized, well, we pave it, but it's gonna be buried, we're not gonna get that much use out of it, we probably don't need to pave it.
You know, I forgot to ask him, since you probably still have asphalt budgeted, could you do a road?
I was gonna say.
Well, exactly.
You did. Well, I did ask him about that.
Rusty also asked,
Yeah.
Nina about it too, and,
I did,
that fell on
because
deaf ears.
I said some kind of smarty pants comment about getting our road done, and they just will not admit that all that settling near the wet stuff.
It's for those giant trucks
It is. It
and the
is.
giant water wagon.
Yep. And we did say, that I think they do want to pave the road going up to the repository from the pavement.
Yeah.
And then ask them to spread that.
At least make an
asphalt out,
apron, yeah.
so that the dirt isn't being pulled out onto the highway or something like that. I think that, at least that's one benefit, but I was in shock about, how long this thing is taking.
4.5 million just in rental equipment.
Yeah.
I have a hard time feeling sorry for them on this field. This
It's.
Well,
this would have, this repository already had over 50 years of life.
especially not using, bringing in out of state contractors
Exactly.
without involving local contractors. I know there's been a few things in there, but, that was,
I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
Like I say, one of the things that we've always pushed for is to come up with new technology, new alternatives. Well, apparently the one section of EPA that's getting chopped is research and development.
R&D.
They're gonna chop it.
Yeah,
So. Which I don't know how hard they were ever looking at an alternative up here, but they are now, there's, you know. What's gonna drive an alternative is industry, when they get tired of building these, you know, whatever, $20 million plants and come up with something else that might. I always have this dream of just running water through a box and zinc bricks just drop out on the other side. That's not realistic.
The bottom line is, Scott, what you're on to though, is a new treatment plant with a filter press, period.
Yeah. filter
And I
press.
mean,
I mean,
that,
you
I
could
can't-
you could use the old plan and just put a filter press in.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not that easy, but,
you
and,
still incorporate
and
it.
then it boils down to, how much of the water do you treat? Do you treat the whole creek? Do
You treat
just the
more.
lines?
Yeah.
And this coming from Ryan, saying, what's the background? You guys gotta set these standards for what you're gonna make the water clean to, but if you don't bring in the background of everyone.
We've been asking for background when I was a town trustee.
Yeah, no,
It ain't
Okay.
background.
Okay,
they don't like that.
I mean, that's,
We bring it up almost
yeah,
every meeting.
anyway,
is background.
exactly.
Cause you can't, how do you set a standard if you don't have what this creek was like, you know, 150 years ago
Yeah.
before white men were here, you know, you have to figure out what that background is, and
Right.
then bring your standards to that. I remember people in Durango saying, you know, we need to clean this up so there's fish back in Cement Creek. Like,
Yeah.
there were never.
Gold medal
fish in Cement
fisheries,
Creek,
yeah.
Well, and that's kind of what's driving some of this too, is.
Gold METAL.
Exactly, got gold medal. Yeah. Anyway.
Because if you think about it,
Sounds like,
it's a.
unfortunately, it wasn't a very productive,
No, it was,
was it?
I mean, it was, I mean, actually it was a pretty good meeting, but it was
Yeah.
like, you know, it just.
Little bit of a cloud hanging over it though, because just like when we were talking to Nick and John.
Yeah,
Kaminsky,
we
it's just-
we feel for them on
Oh,
that,
we
we
told
feel
them,
for 'em
yeah.
on that.
No, we told them
but
that.
let's award it and start working, shall we?
Yeah, I don't
Come
see
on.
that project starting to.
That's what blows me away about all this, and I'll just say it, I don't mind saying it on the record, is if this is a regular. If this is Peter Kiewit or anybody else construction project, you have deadlines, you meet them. And you do a project and
It would have
you
been,
execute.
would have been.
With the EPA. It's a crapshoot,
As far as deadlines, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
getting anything done,
if you think about it, Gold King happened 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And,
anyway, I've said enough, if the lawyer was here, he'd
we've seen a few,
be.
we've seen a few Camp 5s and 7s cleaned up, and that's about it, and some sampling.
Yeah.
Drilling, okay, that good shit. And they are gonna be drilling, holes around the Mayflower Mill. Which,
More holes?
yeah, they're looking to see, well,
Where?
they're looking to see, they really wanna know what the source of, I mean, it's the tailings, but there could be, metal loading coming from even the mill side. If you think about it, I mean, that's a big industrial complex, so it's possible.
Okay.
When we historical society met with them and Bev just really wanted to remind them that we're very poor.
You've seen around the mill, you've seen all those drill holes,
Yeah.
Correct.
Sunnyside,
That-
Yeah,
that Sunnyside did, and then they took credit for
but you know, there's some leaching going on, you can see the salt
Exactly.
coming out in the soils there, so.
it, anyway, I better let it go.
I think that's the only meeting I can think of that we had in between our last meeting, I think was that. There is a, June 26th, is that the date?
Barbecue,
A potluck with EPA, which is, I think it's a good thing that thing, so.
Yeah, I probably will not be here for that.
someplace fun?
Hopefully, yeah.
God bless you.
A friend of mine's bachelor party and he's doing a canoeing trip on the Colorado in Moab. But it's. Yeah, it's a hot time of year there, so that's why I say hopefully fun.
Sounds good to me.
You better bring one canoe, just carry the.
I didn't have any meetings. I'm still, AAA is,
AAA was kind to you this last 2 weeks.
no, they're in turmoil, they're in turmoil.
Oh, you lost your
They're
director just after you
in
hired him.
turmoil.
Mm.
And I wouldn't even express the how I feel about that, but
That's too
we
bad.
gotta, again, they're gonna hire a new one and away we go with. But you've got it back to, the rec board and the executive board. Still kind of fighting and trying to run this outfit and it never turns out that great, but we'll just keep plugging along.
We didn't discuss this little letter, the CAG letter.
Oh, yeah, that was just informational.
Okay, but it is kind of the same things we talked
Yeah.
about.
Sure,
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, yep,
It actually just agreed with you.
yeah, no,
What did I have? I had, we had a great meeting with GoCo. Willie was there for that too. Just discussing, presentations for the Bakers Park project reapproval. Almost a formality kind of thing, but we each had our 3 minutes collectively to say a lot in a very short amount of time between, you know, and I thought it went really well and we got approval for our project. So in June, the final committee votes on it and
so it's moved to
should-
that final committee then.
yeah, we're moved to the.
And this is
final
for
committee,
the,
Great,
which is great,
isn't
yeah.
this for the full amount?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
it work.
so that project
With the
next,
board.
that project next year is gonna happen. There may be, so though there will be work continuing to be done this year. Southwest Conservation Corps is gonna continue to do stuff and. But the bulk of, you know. Of the actual trail itself will probably be being built next summer.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That's
Yeah.
Cause it was always with GoCo, it was always kind of touch and go there for
Yeah,
a few
I
years.
mean,
Very-
it's technically, it's not approved yet, it's got.
I
to go
know,
final.
but to get
it would
moved
have
to
to be
this
something-
position.
Something real strange for them to be, I mean, at this
yeah,
point,
at this point,
it's part of, I mean, it's just,
we're not cutting the cake yet, but.
yeah.
We're,
But it's,
we're we're thinking about the recipe.
There better be cake and beer.
No, it's. I like that.
And the other thing is, BLM has a partner. And this is, BLM is really behind this, track, so they're talking to us about $100,000 to $150,000 donation
For what?
for the,
For the trail
for
building,
the trail.
Oh, really?
50 of it would probably be for, they wanna do storytelling elements, so. Would assume they wanna, you know, make promotional stuff. Trail marker signs. I'm sure they'll do nice videos of the trail building and it being put together and the efforts and
Huh,
big thank you, but yeah,
that's amazing.
yeah.
I'm surprised they have the funding.
It's a private nonprofit foundation.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not
But
it's not the
They
government.
basically, that's a nonprofit foundation, my understanding,
Yeah,
that partners with BLM on the project. I mean, they're kind of like Forest Service has their partners.
Sure.
This is a. BLM is really good promoting the single track real strong.
It's a feather in their cap.
And these
It
guys
is.
are like, okay, well, we'll gotta check it.
Wow.
yeah,
Probably we got a meeting,
next week, I think, yeah,
Yeah, sometime.
When
Tuesday or Wednesday.
when does the committee vote?
I think it's 2 weeks,
Yeah.
Oh, so it's not very far away.
It's like
Yeah.
12th or 15th or somewhere in there.
yeah. But yeah, so we'll by our, maybe by our next meeting, we'll have a final word, not there'll be a meeting after that.
So-
Yeah, and the other great thing about the America's Lands folks too, is that they had a lot of other really good suggestions to reach out to for funding. I didn't know, Alpine Bank is a huge contributor to funding green space projects. Cause their employees and their customers are, you know, recreating in Colorado communities and on Colorado public lands, so.
That's what they want to build a park.
I was just thinking that.
Maybe.
You know, that's probably.
Citizens State
It's
Bank,
not that far fetched, actually.
Citizens State Bank, you know, could be a contributor as well.
Huh.
Katie was joking, we call it the Willie Tukey Memorial Park, but we call it the Alpine Bank Memorial Park instead, or the Citizens State
Sure.
Bank
Let them
Park
put a
instead,
sign up.
you know,
Hmm.
so. Yeah, but he had a lot of other really good suggestions for funding that I think would be helpful for.
Not just this project,
Not just for
but
this project,
anything,
but for a lot of other projects too, so. Pretty excited about that.
It's just nice having somebody that knows those type of things, cause it's hard to find them if you're just trying to do it on your own.
Yeah. I missed a sword meeting, but I kind of breezed through it. They got a, $56 million proposal to build these kind of community homes for substance abuse that would, are community driven, so. With people who come in and enter treatment in the homes and become the responsible parties for the next folks. It's a model that really works well.
Wow.
And has tremendous success, more than traditional inpatient rehab therapy, but it'll be, like several different homes throughout multiple different communities. We probably won't get one, but La Plata and Montezuma and Archuleta will get multiple of these kind of homes that can help,
What's that? That's Sword?
Sword, yeah,
I-
Southwest Opioid Recovery District. That's really a Region 9. Heather Otter is the primary contact there.
Yeah, we just lost her.
We did.
Well, that was the other, yeah, that's what they asked in this letter, is just continuity of EPA, speaking of criminals, just having continuity. We're lucky Athena stayed.
Well, she was, I mean.
He was gonna go to
She
another
was,
project.
yeah, she was gone
Yeah.
last fall.
Yeah.
She's back on the project.
And then Bevan and I actually both went to Green Building Summit, and I had to attend because of that America's Lands meeting, or sorry, the GoCo meeting. In virtually, but I stuck it out through the whole day, just talking about, different green building things, a lot of the code update stuff that's coming through with the. Of course, I'll butcher the acronym for it, but basically the HVAC systems for air replacement, filtering clean air through, insulation practices, windows, all kinds of good stuff. There was maybe 20 people in Ridgeway who were on there, and I think I was the only virtual person to attend, but it was definitely worthwhile, to attend, and I think it's really valuable. I think that our building inspector and code enforcer went to that more so than probably me.
Sure.
But they'll be doing more of those. I think every year we'll have one of those kind of things. It would be great to see some of our local contractors go and kind of keep in the know about the latest and greatest of green energy building and different strategies.
Especially in this time. I mean,
Yeah.
it's so cold here that if you had a energy efficient house,
Yeah.
be great.
Yeah.
There are a lot of them that aren't.
Oh, yeah, I mean, all of our old houses are built with 2x4s, and really modern 2x6 construction is not enough insulation to really, combat the freezing temperatures that we
Sure.
see here.
It's just so cold.
Yeah. I think and it was a busy May for meetings, but
Oh my God.
just struggling to think of what else I went to, and I'm sure I'm forgetting some.
And
Tomorrow-
tomorrow is the memorial for Bill Simon too.
Yeah, correct.
At
30.
30.
Yeah. Yeah.
It looks like Red Mountain Pass is gonna be closed tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow. For part of it, is that intermittent or is it?
Sounds like, no, it sounds like, well, it sounds like City Hall in the morning, though they may open it.
Just close everything.
I like, it's probably gonna be in the minute, but it could be for very long.
Okay.
All right, that's all I got. You guys have anything else?
Not at the moment.
During this meeting at 8:33. 8:37.